I'm Rami Henricks. I'm a junior at Sandy Creek, and my NCAPS project is over the preferred environment for barn owls. Why did I choose this topic for my project? Well, for the NCAPS career pathway, I'm a part of the agricultural pathway. The reason for this is because I'm interested in zoology, becoming a zoologist, more specifically an ornithologist, which, if you're not familiar with that term, it is someone who studies birds. The reason why I chose ornithology is because I am very passionate, or some people would say obsessed, with owls, as you can see. This is a picture of an ornithologist checking the wingspan of some sort of falcon. I didn't put research in the picture. I just thought it looked interesting. Now it is part of my research. To start off with, just in case you were not familiar with what a barn owl is, there are about 35 different species of barn owls. This is also told by the different coloration between them, and I will get into why they are different colors later. But the one I will be talking about is the North American, which is the one you see right here. They have the largest range. They are from North America all the way down to Central America. With all not just barn owls, but with all owls, they have this thing where they eat everything that they have as prey whole. And because they eat it whole, they can't digest everything, and so everything is put in like these big gigantic clumps and basically just regurgitated. And those are called owl pellets. It's basically pooping, but from the other side. When you're asked, what do you think an owl will sound like, especially a barn owl, you would think that they would be like the stereotypical hoo, or, as you can see, this is Gilbert. Say hello to Gilbert. Hi, Gilbert. He's a great horned owl. They are the most common species of owls that you would see on commercials. They are also the ones that have the stereotypical hoo, if you can hear this. Can you hear that? So it's the whole hoo, 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 hoo. So you always hear that. That's the sound that you always think about when you hear an owl say. That is not the case with barn owls. There are actually a handful of species of owls that will do different things besides hooing, and these ones screech. Here you will hear an example of what they sound like. Be prepared. Did you play it? Oh. See, I believe people don't think that these birds actually screech is because if you were to listen to this and not know what they would sound like, you would think that it's an animal dying. So instead of being like, oh, there's a barn owl outside, no, you're more like, oh, there's an animal dying outside. So, I mean, that's probably why people are like, oh, all owls hoo, and then don't really know if they have an owl or not. I can't continue. Oh, yes, that's too. So, more facts about the barn owls is they are nocturnal, which means that they hunt at night, or basically do everything at night. Another thing is they have sensitive eyes. So you got the bird's eye view, where they have to have sensitive eyes in order to see their prey from up above. This also corresponds with a different thing about owls, where they do not fly, they glide. So when they have to attack their prey, they have to attack from up above. This also plays into another part where they have a silent flight. And that was really cool to think about because the way their bone structure and the way their feathers are structured helps them so that you can't even hear it when they fly. Which is why if you do have an owl nearby, you can't hear it if it leaves or comes, because that's what helps them catch their prey, is by being silent. Okay, next is the lopsided ears. Here is a picture of what an ear on a barn owl will look like. I mean, it's kind of gross, I guess, but it's fascinating to me. Here is the bone structure of their face. As you can see, the ear openings are higher than the other one. The reason for this is that each side hones in on different sounds. It's the same with human ears, except with instead of us having like one ear higher than the other, we just have it. That's why we kind of suck as human beings. So I mean, like, owls are great because they can hear, and because the one side may be able to hone in onto like something that's far away, the other one can hone into something that's like closer. And I found that really fascinating. So, enough about the barn owls. Now we get to go into my research. Oh, shoot, sorry. One thing that I found interesting is I thought barn owls were as common as cats. That is not the case. They are actually an endangered species in certain states, as you will see from a map that I will have in the next slide. The reason for their endangerment is because of human impact, which is another reason why humans suck. Deforestation, old barns destroyed, and rat poisoning. Deforestation is already a big impact when it comes to animals that are endangered. Because owls are scavengers, which means that they don't build their own home. They usually take it over after someone's already left. Which is why when you tear down hollowed trees or just tear down trees in general, you're basically destroying potential homes or homes that they have already been in. And then old barns being destroyed, they are called barn owls. They are called this for a reason. They like to stay in barns. But when people go and destroy old barns because they're either too ugly, they're too unstable, or they just don't want it anymore, you're also destroying a potential home for barn owls. And rat poisoning. I will get into that more, but just please keep that into the back of your head. Here is a map showing the population ratios in the states with barn owls. So if you look here in the dark blue or purple, this is good population, so no worries. And then the light blue is fair. It's not good, but hey, it's not concerning. The yellow, and as you will notice, Nebraska is one of those states. This is where it's starting to become a concern. It's threatened. And then the ones in the red, that is when they are endangered. We will now move on to the habitat. This is where my reviews, my research articles that I found at the Love Library came into play. Two of them that I found were on nest box location, and this is an example of a nest box location. So what this basically is you are creating homes for barn owls. And so experiments were run to see, well, if you are interested in doing a nest box location, what should you do and what will fare better than the other? And what they did find out was that experiments did fare better in the shade, where it was facing east-north. They like it in cool, shady environments instead of places that are out in the sun and getting hot and humid. I don't like being hot. Do you like being hot? So don't assume that they like being hot either. So, I mean, that was kind of interesting. And then melanic coloration in females. This is where the different colors of the barn owls come into play. Depending on the habitat that a barn owl is in, especially females, determines on how well the species will survive in that environment. So if a female, as you can see, they are whitish or reddish. If the whitish is in an environment that does not correspond with the color of her fur, she will not breed well and she will not hunt well. So that will also play a part in the demise of their species in that habitat. So that's where the copes with environmental condition comes in, is because if they don't look the part, they won't act the part. Diet. They will mostly eat voles, shrews, mice, and rats. Their favorite is voles. And if you're not sure what voles are, they're these little guys. And then these are shrews, in case you weren't very familiar with what shrews are. I mean, they're really cute. This is also where the rat poisoning comes in. Rat poisoning impact. SGAR stands for second generation anticoagulant rodenticides, which is rat poisoning in a more scientific word. And what it is rat poisoning traveling through the food chain. Because when you have rat poisoning, you don't realize that it doesn't kill off the rat right away. So that leaves enough time for a predator, let alone if it's an owl or a raptor or anything that eats that, it will consume that animal not knowing that it's already had rat poisoning in its system, and then it basically just keeps spreading through the food chain until the predator dies. And that is found in the liver. And that is actually a huge problem, and if you were to talk to anybody who specializes in this, they will tell you, yes, they like to address this because it is something that people need to know and be aware of. So what they do want you to do to control rat population is the whole nest box location, where you invite a predator to come into your habitat that you have, and they will help control the population for you, or get a cat. So I mean, my mentorship. I had two mentors. My first one is at the Lincoln Children's Zoo in Lincoln, Nebraska. At first it was Haley. She was actually an ornithologist, but then it was changed to Lauren Keltner because Haley was too busy. Lauren Keltner was a penguin specialist, which was really cool because I used to be obsessed with penguins. Now it's owls. So if you aren't familiar with what the Lincoln Children's Zoo looks like, this is what it looks like. It has like a little like train station and everything, and I get scared every time I approach it. So we'll start off with her animals, the Humboldt penguins. There are about 12 of them in total, and the second day that I was there, I actually got to, interact with the animals more. So what we did is it was vitamins day. So we had to take the fish and shove the vitamins into the fish. And if you think that's easy, it's not, especially when the fish is half frozen and there's like a specific pocket that you have to shove the pill into, and if you don't find the pocket, the pill won't go into the fish. So, and then, so as we were feeding them the fish, we had to monitor who was eating what fish, how many fish they were eating, and there's not really a specific reason why they were doing this except to just monitor if they're eating correctly, if they're eating enough, if they're eating too little, just basic knowledge over the penguins. Next is the scarlet / blue and gold macaws. There are one of each. One of them is Rocket. I don't know which one. They have to be switched around because there used to be 3 of them. Then he left. And then now there is just 2 of them and they don't get along. So what will happen is they'll put one on display and the other behind the scenes and just have to switch them out. And these ones love grains and fruits and bird feed, of course. So the fruit doesn't matter as long as you have at least 3 fruit mixed in, and then they'll be happy. I do know that when I was there, again, second day of mentoring, they do these enrichment things. And enrichment is something that zoos have to do, it's law for them. And what they're doing is they're introducing something new to the animals and seeing how they interact with it. So I thought that was pretty cool. And so what they were doing at the time with the macaws is that they were taking like this baby food that looked like melted chocolate ice cream, mixed it with bird feed and honey and bird feed. I don't think it went over well because when I was cleaning the dishes, there was still a lot of it left. But you know what? I have to say. These ones were so much fun. Okay, these are violet taracos, and that's what they look like, and they're beautiful. There are about 3 of them in total, though one of them they're not sure is going to live long. And they love people, especially Violet in Africa. And I know that they love people because the second I walked in there, they was like, oh yeah, don't be afraid if they land on you, fly by you. They're not scared of people. And one landed right onto my head. And if you were me, you probably freaked out a little bit, but in the good way. And so the whole entire time that I was cleaning the stall and stuff, they kept like landing on me, and I enjoyed it very thoroughly. Their diet consists of fruits and pellets, so they look like granola bars crushed in little tiny shapes. Now, funny story that goes along with the fruits and pellets, when I went to walk in to put the food into the stall, I don't know which one it was either Violet or Africa, jumped right onto the dish and started eating out of it. But she was only eating the fruit, so I pointed that out. I was like, oh, you must only like the fruit, don't you? And then I feel like out of spite, she took a pellet, looked right at me, and dropped it in front of my face. So, I mean, they're not dumb. Frog moths. Okay. I don't know if you can see that picture well, but these are very commonly mistaken with owls. But if you look close enough, they're not owls. They have like the body of an owl and the size of an owl, but their face is like an eagle. They're pretty ugly, but I mean, I find them grotesquely cute. There are about 4 of them in total. There are 3 adults and 1 juvenile. His name is Taz. They have to keep him separated from his parents because his parents hate him. Their diets consist of rodents, and more specifically, I can only remember 2 of them, but there are fuzzies and pinkies, and basically they're just dead frozen baby rats. And with these ones is that they like to be hand-fed, and they love food. And so like you have to feed them either by hand, or you feed them with tweezers. And so that was really interesting to see her feed them. Fair warning though, if you are cleaning their stalls and they poop on you, I am so sorry. It stinks. I didn't have it personally, but an intern named Sydney did. Next is my second mentor, and that was at the Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago, Illinois. Her name was Chris Fuhrmeyer, and she was an owl specialist, and she's been working at that zoo for about 20 years. We're not going to start off with her animals first. We're going to start off with just, basic animals. I'm switching this up. Next is the Sichuan takin. Don't quote me on that. That's probably butchering the name. There are about 5 of them. I didn't count, but I know there are about 5. They have these things like rankings. So if you were to look at them, you can definitely tell who's the top dog because he looks different than everybody else. I thought that was interesting. And the thing with takins and camels, who I will talk about later, is they have the same kind of like food diet thingy. They're not picky. They're not. They love food. And so what we fed them that day was monkey biscuits, carrots, and yams and apples. Now we start on with the African penguins. Not to get them mixed up with the Humboldt, because if you would look, they have kind of the similar structure and coloring, but they are not the same. There are at least 9 of them. Again, I didn't count. There was a lot of them. There are about 3 mated pairs, but they are not the preferred mated pairs. They have this thing where they have to be certified for breeding or else they can't produce eggs. I mean, they can produce eggs, but the eggs won't hatch. So they don't have any certified breeding pairs, but they're hoping they do soon because they want baby penguins running around. And like all penguins, they love fish. Now we get to the Bactrian camel, and that right there, it's a female. I don't remember her name. It was some grandma name. She loves food. She slobbered all over your hand when you fed her. Again, the carrots, yams, apples, monkey biscuits. Don't forget that. They especially love the monkey biscuits. Next is the Meller's chameleon. Okay, this was fun. There's only one of them. His name is Rango. And at the time when he told us his name, he was like in the stick-up position, like about to draw his guns, like the Western Rango. Yeah, got it? Funny? Yeah. Okay. At the time, we were feeding him, and we had to hold a grasshopper, and it was alive, so it was just wiggling in your hand, and he would, like, eat it from your hand, and it was just the coolest, weirdest feeling ever. And I said crickets and grasshoppers, but just insects in general. Next is the prehensile-tailed skink. That is him right there. I don't know his name. We kind of didn't have him out for a long time. I didn't get to hold him. I didn't really touch him. I just kind of was like, you're cool. There are at least one of them that I know of. They are herbivores. They are indigenous to the Solomon Islands. No idea where that's at. But when they are on the Solomon Islands, they like to eat these plants called creeper plants. And they are also a nocturnal animal. These ones were my favorite next to owls. The African rock ball python. I didn't get to hold him, but I did get to touch him, and it was amazing. There are at least 3 of them. One of them is named Ursula. That is not Ursula. Ursula was in like a funky little mood. Their diet consists of large rodents, monkeys, fruit bats, lizards, and crocodiles, and found in rural areas, it will be dogs, chickens, and goats. So, I mean, their appetite is endless. And here's my resources, but I'm not done yet. Okay, so while I was in Chicago, I got this snowy owl. Yeah, his name is Stanley. Say hello to Stanley. Hi, he is named after one of the snowy owls that they had there. He was the dad. And I thought that it was so funny that his name was Stanley because that is such a dad name. Fun fact about me, I have about 9 owls to my collection, and there's most likely going to be more. So you can call me a crazy owl lady and not a cat lady. Are there any questions? Yeah.
I noticed on the map that there was a white state. What do you think the white was?
I don't think they were most likely. I think the white, white, whoa.
Oh, yeah, Alaska was white.
They probably were like, we're not going to count this as an American state. So, I mean, where's Alaska? Oh, hi, Alaska.
Hawaii has purple or blue.
So, dang, I didn't even notice that. So, maybe Alaska's saying, no, there's like none. No, like, don't even ask about it. We're not even going to talk about it. So, yeah. Any other questions?
Was your favorite the Chicago Zoo or the zoo in Lincoln?
That's a hard one because I loved the Chicago Zoo because I actually got to go around to the different animals. but I didn't go behind the scenes or really job shadow or really like do what I did in Lincoln, because with Lincoln, I actually got to create the diets of the animals. Now that was interesting, and I got to clean the stalls, and I actually got to do what a zookeeper has to do. And if you think that being a zookeeper is just, oh, like, look at this pretty animal, let me pet it, let me play with it, and blah, 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 and not cleaning stalls, and you think that's just an intern's job, then you are sadly mistaken, and you should probably turn right around and think of a different career, because that is not what it is. It is 90% of a zookeeper's job to clean and make the food, unless they have a dietitianist or something like that, someone that actually creates the diets, but then that just makes it more difficult for you as a zookeeper. So, I mean, I liked the Lincoln Zoo because it was more hands-on, but I liked the Lincoln Park Zoo because I don't know, I just got around more and saw a lot more than I probably should have. Any more questions?
What are you going to do next semester?
Next semester, I am sadly not continuing in this. I'm going to do performing arts, so like just the arts program, because like Atlee, drama is a huge part of my life, and drama is everything. So, any other questions?
Is there anything else you're interested in besides that? Any other interests?
Well, do you want like what I'm really, really interested in? Or, okay, well, zoologist, marine biologist, forensic scientist, a criminal, a detective, an actress, but more someone who like goes on the stage, and I think that's it. So 5 different things. So, any other questions? Unless you're done and don't want to hear me talk anymore.